Welcome, everybody, to the NFL show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, as always, NFL beat writer for the Grueling Truth and many other places. Help me welcome to the show, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
I'm the same as always. I'm just hoping there's a football season. Sam, this is getting a little old. I need to watch some live sports with crowds. But today we're going to continue our state of the franchise, and today we're going to go with the Buffalo Bills, who last year shocked a lot of people by making it to the AFC wildcard game where they had blew a 16-0 lead to the Houston Texans, basically because of, for lack of a better term, Josh Allen not being able to make plays in the second half. They started the season 3-0, and of course that was, you knew they were going to be good because they beat the Bengals to go 3-0. And when you look at this team, are they the favorite in the AFC East right now, Sam?
It's hard to say there's a favorite in the AFC East, but I would lean towards yes. I would say they are the favorite because their competition right now is the New England Patriots team led by Cam Newton. I think that's a 7 to 8 win team. I don't see them being a 10-win team, which I think is what you need to be if you want to win the division. The Jets are always out there. I like Sam Darnold. We've been over this before. I like Darnold a lot. I think the offensive line's gotten a lot better in New York. I still think some of the skill players around them are a little bit questionable, though. So I think the Jets are kind of capped at 9 wins probably at most. So I think the Bills probably are the front runners here.
All right, so let's start off at the top. Shawn Mcdermott made the playoffs a couple times in 3 years, lost a couple wild card games. And this is a guy who I think, in my book, he's at worst, top 10 coach in the NFL, because this is a team that I don't think has had necessarily the talent to be in the playoffs the way he's done it with them. He's got to beat the New England Patriots at some point. They went 0-2 last year against the Patriots still. But Shawn Mcdermott is a guy who I think really takes what he's got, as the old saying is, he really coaches them up.
Yeah, 9-7 back in 2017, now 10-6 this past year. I don't think people expect them to go 10-6 this past season. And honestly, they had a good defense, but you look at what they had offensively, you wouldn't expect them to win 10 games. I think really talent-wise, that team was a 7 to 8 win team, and they ended up winning 10 games. So I think McDermott deserves a lot of props for what he's done so far. I think he would shine if he wasn't in the current division he's in, because he's playing alongside he's working alongside Bill Belichick and Brian Flores, who are also very good coaches. So I think he gets buried a little bit in the conversation at points. But I think he is a top 10 head coach in the NFL. And I think if Josh Allen improves at all, and if he doesn't show what he did last year, I think if he gets better, this could be a 10 to 12 win team, I think. And part of it is because of Shawn Mcdermott, what he's been able to do with the limited pieces he has.
Yeah, and when we go to Josh Allen, quarterback, and I'm not saying anything about it. I think that he's been better than I thought he would be. And he just made some decisions last year in games, especially that playoff game. The lateral to Dawson Knox, that was puzzling to say the least. But you got to remember, he also managed to get them into field goal range to send the game in overtime. And in overtime, he had them set up for a potential game winner when a penalty pushed them out of range. But this is a guy who decision-making really has to worry you. And the other thing that worries me is he's damn near more of a threat as a runner than anything else.
Yeah, I've been over this plenty of times with our people too. This is a situation where he's not a very accurate passer. So far, through the first 2 years of his career, he's only completed 56.3% of his pass attempts. That's something you wouldn't expect from an NFL quarterback, especially now when the league is moving more towards high efficiency passes. We see guys like Drew Brees average like over 70 completion. His completion percentage is over 70% over like the last 3 years, and Josh Allen can't even hit 60. And then there's also issues with him with the deep pass. He's one of the strongest quarterbacks in the league in terms of his arm talent, but one of the worst deep passers in the entire NFL. And he throws a large number of passes that just aren't even catchable for receivers. He challenges double teams when it just doesn't make sense to do that. So to me, I have a huge issue with Josh Allen. And honestly, if this guy wasn't one of the best running quarterbacks in the NFL, if he took away 50% of his running ability, I don't think he'd even be a starter in the NFL. I think his career prospects rely on him being able to run, because honestly, as a passer, he's not very polished at all. I don't know if he could hold down a starting job long term based purely just on his arm passing ability.
I think my concern is the Buffalo Bills this year turning into Chicago Bears of last year, a team with a really good defense that has some weapons, but Mitchell Trubisky, and not to say Allen's as bad as Trubisky, because I don't think that's possible, But I think the only difference between the two really that I see is Josh Allen's ability to run with his legs. When you look at this team, though, I think to be a playoff team or a Super Bowl contender, it's going to fall on Allen. And they did get him some weapons. I mean, Stephon Diggs, I think, was a great move. The Bills sent a bevy of picks, including this year's first rounder, for the uber-talented Diggs, which sounds like a lot. But I think it was worth it when you look at this, Sam. Diggs is a guy that Josh Allen needs.
Well, yeah, and one of the beliefs out there is that adding Stephon Diggs, this is a guy who averaged around 17 yards per reception last year. The belief is that adding him to the offense will give you a true deep threat, which is what you didn't have last year in John Brown and Cole Beasley. So now maybe you have someone who can go deep. Maybe that helps Josh Allen improve his completion percentage on those longer passes. I think that Stephon Diggs will be by far the best receiver he's ever worked with. I think Stephon Diggs is a guy who will perform at a borderline Pro Bowl level. And he hasn't gotten a huge number of targets in Minnesota. They kind of limited his targets the past couple of years. But now that he's in Buffalo, he'll see his targets probably double at least. And so I would imagine that he'll be a huge part of this offense. I think this is the guy that Josh Allen is going to prove anything this year. It's going to be because of Stephon Diggs.
Well, and Diggs had 15 deep receptions last year, which was most in the league in 2019. And Allen attempted a deep pass on 15.5% of his passes over his first two seasons, which is the highest in the NFL. So hopefully that helps there. You look defensively, I think a face to know is Mario Addison, the defensive end who kind of flew under the radar during the offseason. But I think he can make an immediate impact on that Bills defensive front.
And he's a guy who kind of has been quiet his whole career in the sense that people haven't paid a lot of attention to him. But even back in Carolina, this is a guy who put up solid stats pretty much every single year. I mean, last season he had 9.5 sacks. The year before that, 9. In 2011, in 2017, he had 11. 2016, 9.5. So this is a very consistent defensive end. And you bring him now to Buffalo, and they've lost some guys in the offseason. I know they lost a defensive tackle for them who had around 9 sacks this past year. But you bring in Mario Addison, you basically get rid of that issue. I think he's probably the best pass rusher on their defensive front right now. So I think this is a huge addition for them because it basically shores up the defensive front, which I had questions about going into the offseason. I think he'll be a phenomenal player for them. I think this is probably the addition they needed on that defensive line.
Yeah, and I think the 3 spot with Jordan Phillips now in Arizona, I think Ed Oliver will make a huge difference. I think Ed Oliver may be a poor man's version for the Bills of Aaron Donald, and I think Oliver's going to have a huge impact. He made a big impact last year during his rookie season, finished with 5 sacks. So I think Ed Oliver with him is going to make him even that much better.
Yeah, and coming out of Houston, Ed Oliver was viewed as one of the players with the most potential at the defensive tackle position. There were some concerns about his maturity. I know he had there was an off-field incident, I'm pretty sure, since the season ended. But at the same point, talent-wise, this guy is phenomenal. I mean, watching him in college, he dominated teams. I think this is a dude who could be a Pro Bowler in his second year in the NFL. I really think this is a guy who would get up there and get close to 10 sacks. He's that good of a player. It's just a question of whether he'll actually deliver on all that potential because I don't know him personally. I'm not going to say I do, but there have been concerns about maturity. So we'll see if his work ethic holds up and if he gets to that Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, and they lost Shaq Lawson, which I think has to be at least a mild disappointment. But when you look at this defense, especially on the backside, Tre'Davious White is one of the best corners in the NFL. If this defensive line plays well, I mean, I really think when I ask you if they were the favorite in the AFC East, I think they have to be the favorite because I think they have the most talented overall team in the AFC East.
Yeah, I can agree with you there, and especially I think it starts on that defense, really honestly. I know we talked about Stephon Diggs, but Tre'Davious White is one of probably the 2 best corners in the league. I think it's probably him and Stephon Gilmore right now. I think White's better than Jalen Ramsey. I think he's really an elite prospect here who will be one of the highest-paid cornerbacks in the league when his contract comes up. And even beyond him in that secondary, look at someone like Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde has been probably underrated for most of his career, but he's probably still one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. So they have some really good pieces in place in that secondary. My one concern is the other quarterback position. I know they signed Josh Norman, but at this point, you really don't want to see Josh Norman starting at quarterback for you. That's probably not a good sign. So there are little concerns there in that secondary, but between Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, you got Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker. We just talked about the defensive line. That's probably one of the most talented. That's the most talented defense in that division, and probably one of the most talented defenses in the entire NFL. So I really like what they put together on that side of the ball.
So I think what this falls on once again is the quarterback play, and a guy who I think could really help Josh Allen really evolve this season. A young quarterback's best friend outside of a great running game has to be a tight end, and I think this is where Dawson Knox comes in. And when you look at Dawson Knox, I think he's got a guy that's got the ability to be the best tight end in the AFC East.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him come in last year, and he played a big role almost immediately. And I'm hoping he takes a step forward this year because he's got that potential coming out of Mississippi. It's probably between him and Mike Gesicki as the top tight ends in this division right now. We'll see how that plays out because I know Gesicki, obviously, they're going to go through some quarterback changes in Miami eventually. But I agree with you. Knox has to be a guy who helps me out here because we talked about Josh Allen and his inability to sometimes make the right decision and struggle completing passes, has that low completion percentage. In those scenarios, the tight end is the guy who will help you out. He will bail you out. We've talked about this for years with guys like Jason Witten in Dallas or Heath Miller in Pittsburgh. These are guys who are quarterback saviors. And I think Dawson Knox can be that for Buffalo, and he can help Josh Allen really look a lot better than what he's done so far in his career.
Yeah, and I think another guy who could make life a lot easier is Devin Singletary for the Bills.
I think he's highly underrated. I think Devin Singletary is going to be a future back, and he's going to be probably a 1,000-yard rusher. I know it's him and David Montgomery are two of the guys people talk about a lot from last class. I think Devin Singletary is much better than David Montgomery, honestly. I know he shared snaps with Frank Gore this past year, and there's talks about him possibly sharing snaps with Zach Moss this year. That's the point. I think it's Devin Singletary's team. It's Devin Singletary's job. I mean, this guy's a guy who rushed for 775 yards this past season while averaging over 5 yards per carry. So the offensive line has been pretty good for them, or at least for the running game. And Devin Singletary's been a machine for them so far. I like what he did. I think they can get him more involved in the passing game. And I think he'll be close to a top 14 back in the NFL this year. I really believe that much. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, and I think also with the Bills, I think you've got one of the best receiving corps in the National Football League. You throw in John Brown with the guys we've already talked about, the Dawson Knoxes, the Stephon Diggs. You add in a slot receiver like Cole Beasley, who's dependable. And I think there's a huge opportunity here for Josh Allen. And I think this is a make or break season for Allen because if he plays really well, the Bills are a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, if he plays up to all of his potential, and I'm not saying I don't view Josh Allen favorably going forward, but if he does play to all his potential, they should win their division. And he could have the potential, I think, would go at least to the second round of the playoffs. Means they have that great defense. And you mentioned the receiving core. Guys like John Brown, he averaged over 70 receiving yards per game this past season. Cole Beasley was pretty good for them. He's always been fairly consistent. So they do have one of the deeper receiving cores, at least in those top three guys in the NFL. And I agree. I think anything short of making it to the second round of the playoffs would be a disappointment for this team based on their current division and based on just the situation they have in general.
All right. Now, I think the other thing we got to look at here is this. They've made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. Nobody expected it. They were kind of everybody's darling. 2017, they get in when Andy Dalton throws the miraculous pass to, I think it was A.J. Green or something. The Bengals won that game. I just wanted to bring up the fact that the Bengals have won a game before. But it's harder to win once you've established yourself. And when you think about this now, I think they have to be the favorite in the AFC East. So another big thing is how they will handle being the favorite going in instead of just a team that everybody cheers for that's a feel-good story.
Well, yeah, we saw this to some degree with the Cleveland Browns this past year. So, when they first drafted Baker Mayfield, there was a lot of hype around, this is a team that's kind of an underdog scenario. Then they go and add all those pieces past offseason. They enter 2019 as the favorites, and a lot of people were actually favoring them to make it to the Super Bowl. And then they just fall flat. So I think Buffalo is in a similar situation now where they have all the talent they need to win the division. It's just the question whether they can actually go out and do it. They're no longer the underdogs. This is a team that's at the head. Everyone's hunting them. And so I don't know. They're not used to this. Josh Allen's never been on a team that's been favored to win the division. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out. But based on how he performed against Houston last year, I don't know if he'll come through in clutch games. I don't know if the offense will come through in clutch games. Because I know Buffalo played Pittsburgh this past season. They won. But they only won because Devin Hodges was at quarterback. And they won by like 3 or 4 points. And Pittsburgh has a chance to win the game. But Devin Hodges threw an interception. So this team has not proven to me so far that they've been able to go out and beat top-level competition consistently. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out this season.
All right, so you look at their season. They start off, I believe they host the Jets. They go to Miami. Those two games are huge just in the AFC East, especially we talked about that Jets-Bills game is a huge first game because I really think your winner of the AFC East may come out of whoever's better between those two teams. So a home game, you got to hold serve right at the start. And once they do that, they go to Miami. They host the Rams, which is a winnable game. They go to the Raiders, winnable game. They go to the Titans. They play the Chiefs, but they get the Chiefs at home. So what kind of win total do you think the Bills come up with this year?
I mean, I'm still kind of leaning towards that 10 to 12 win range, but it's going to be tough because they play the NFC West, and that's arguably the toughest division in football. They also play the AFC West, which is also one of the toughest divisions in the league right now. But if you look at the first 6 games that you just laid out, they should probably win 4 of those games. I think they would lose against the Chiefs, and they'll probably lose either the Titans game or the Jets game. One of those two. They should get 4 wins in those first 6 outings. You turn around and in the rest of the season, you got the Jets, Patriots, Seahawks, and Cardinals. Those are your next 4 games after that. I think you pick up wins. You want one against the Jets. You need to get one against the Patriots, I think. You'll probably get another one against the Cardinals. So that's 7 wins in your first 10 games. I think that's a reasonable hit for them in the first 10. I think that's what you need to get to that point. Because after that, it's Chargers, 49ers, Steelers, Broncos, Patriots, Dolphins. That's a tough schedule to finish with. I think in those final 6 games, you're going to probably get a win maybe against Pittsburgh, probably against the Chargers because I don't know who their quarterback is, and maybe against the Patriots. And that puts you at 10 wins for the season. I think that's probably about where you're going to be stuck.
All right, I think they're 10 wins. They win the division if Josh Allen is like Josh Allen was last year. If Josh Allen is better, I think it's a team that could win 11 or 12 games and compete for the Super Bowl. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not a huge Josh Allen fan, but there's so much talent on this team. He doesn't have to be spectacular, Sam. He's just got to be consistent and not turn the ball over, but that's been his issue.
Yeah, if he plays like a game, even if he plays like a game manager, they should still win games because the defense is phenomenal. Like I said, that defense will create opportunities and create points for the offense. Josh Allen doesn't need to go out there and hit the home run ball every single time. He just needs to be a consistent quarterback, capable of keeping teams in games and putting up points every now and then. He doesn't have to score 30 a night. He just has to get 25, 24. That's all he really needs. So I think if he plays it more conservatively this year, they'll be fine. But this is a guy who fumbled the ball 14 times this past season. He threw 9 interceptions. It doesn't sound like a lot, but combined with the fact that he only threw for just over 3,000 yards, I mean, that's a lot of interceptions for not a lot of yardage. So this is a guy who plays a little bit reckless and isn't very polished right now. So I am concerned about how he'll impact this coming season.
All right, Sam. Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Myself, you, and Steve Risley will be back for another edition of Survive in Advance. We'll have to talk a little bit about the Washington Redskins. Not just a name change now. There's some other things going on in Washington. We'll talk about basically general sports topics that are hot for today, maybe a little Major League Baseball getting ready to kick off, or would you call it hit off or pitch off? I don't know. But make sure you check us out Sunday night. Me and Sam will be back Monday at 1 on the NFL show. Correct, Sam?
Yep, I'll be there.
And you want to tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. I'm constantly posting new stats, polls, or articles there, so feel free to go check that out.
All right, guys, you can find us live on Facebook or YouTube. You can hear all of our podcasts on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak. Wonder what we did live.